Welcome geekettes and everything in between. I'm Cameron Smith and today I'm going to be doing my comic character spotlight on Wiccan, aka Billy Kaplan. Now since Wandavision began, and more specifically since her twins were revealed, many non-comic readers have been wondering who they are, where they came about, and how they might fit into the Marvel universe. So Wiccan is one of my favourite comic characters. I even have a tattoo of him on my shin. That is how much I love this character. So I thought that I'd tell you my chosen must-know Wiccan facts. Number 1, his origin. Now the idea of Billy first appeared in a comic series entitled The Vision and the Scarlet Witch. Kinda does what it says on the tin. It was issue number 12 in September 1986. Now in this version of Billy, it was revealed that he and his twin brother Tommy were both in fact slivers of Mephisto's life essence. It was part of this long, devious plan to bring Mephisto back. If you don't know, read up on it, it's a good story. However, in order to defeat Mephisto, these soul fragments were eventually reabsorbed back into him, which of course devastated the Scarlet Witch as she wanted kids. The second glimpse we get of Billy is in the infamous House of M storyline. This is where the Scarlet Witch created this whole reality where mutants are the dominant species on the Earth, and in fact it was more desirable to have a mutant child than a human child. This whole reality is overseen by Magneto, who she believes to be her father at the time. In this reality she also has twin babies, Billy and Tommy. When the heroes assemble together, the X-Men and the Avengers, to defeat the Scarlet Witch, and this reality is dispersed, she utters the famous words, "No more mutants." And her twins are seemingly dissipated along with the rest of this reality. This is another glimpse in the comics of how seemingly unstable the Scarlet Witch is becoming, largely in part due to how powerful she is. Now the first official appearance of the actual character Billy Kaplan, who later becomes Wiccan, is in 2005 in the Young Avengers comic. This is in fact the same Billy that she had already magically constructed. In fact, she had put so much magical power back into those soul fragments that they destroyed Mephisto, and they were then reincarnated into the Billy and Tommy that we see in the Young Avengers. Number 2. Billy met the Scarlet Witch before he realised who she was. In the Young Avengers comic via flashback, we are shown that Billy is actually bullied at school. I know, who would want to bully a young Avenger? But at this time period he wasn't yet a superhero, and he didn't yet know he had powers. It is also revealed at this time that he is a massive fan of the Avengers and a big geek. Does that remind you of anyone? When he's getting bullied, he finds solace at the Avengers mansion, and on one of the occasions that he goes there, he meets the Scarlet Witch, who happens to be his favourite Avenger. Ironic, I know. She tells him to stand his ground next time. She then touches his head and heals him. Now if your favourite Avenger told you to stand your ground, would you listen? Of course. So next time Billy's getting bullied, he does exactly what the Scarlet Witch instructed, and his powers manifest. He nearly kills his tormentor. Now if that's not a classic mutant manifestation, I don't know what is. Number 3, the Young Avengers. Now I've already mentioned that his first official appearance is in the Young Avengers series. In this series, he and the other Young Avengers are recruited by Iron Lad, who happens to be Kang the Conqueror from the future, but as a child who's come back in time to stop himself because he doesn't want to conquer. Anyway, he assembles a list of future heroes, and amongst them is Billy Kaplan. Billy is given the codename as Guardian, and as well dons the costume to sort of resemble one, I guess. His main powers at this point manifest as electrokinetic powers such as lightning shots, so people really do confuse him for a young Thor, which is the theme among the Young Avengers. They're all meant to be like a mini-me version of the real Avengers. It's in his time in the Young Avengers that he meets Hulkling, which brings us on to point number 4, his relationship with Hulkling. Now Hulkling, real name Teddy Altman, is a Young Avenger from the very start, just like Wiccan. It's teased quite early on in the comics that they have a liking for each other. Eventually they seal the deal and become boyfriends, and the fans are shown lots of cute /intimate /adventurous moments that the two share together along the way. Not only is this one of the most long-lasting relationships that we see in the comics, but it also is a great demonstration of an LGBT relationship within the Marvel Universe. Of course, they receive their fair share of tests. They nearly break up a couple of times, once when Loki insinuates that Hulkling is a creation of Wiccan's own powers, and on another occasion where Wiccan is hit by a bout of depression. But this does nothing but cement our complete love for them as a couple. In fact, in a recent storyline called Empire, Hulkling and Wiccan tie the knot in front of their super-powered friends and marry each other. Upon their marriage, Wiccan is named the Prince Consort as well as the Court Wizard for the Kree/Skrull Alliance, which of course Hulkling is the heir to. Number 5. Another relationship of note in Wiccan's life is that with his twin brother Tommy Shepherd. Now what's interesting about this is that although they're identical twins, in the comics they technically have different birth parents. That's because their souls are reincarnated, but they did end up in different families. In fact, it took them all the way up until their teens for them to actually meet and realise their relation. Tommy's powers imitate that of Quicksilver Scarlet Witch's own twin, as does his attitude. In fact, Wiccan first meets him while springing him free from a superpowered juvie, because Speed had vaporised his own town. Side note about Tommy, he's also in a relationship with a superpowered boy named David Elaine, aka Prodigy from the new X-Men. The 6th point is about Billy's future. Now he goes on a series of adventures, again with the Young Avengers, but also American Chavez, who is a god from another universe, who has the ability to kick holes in reality. Pretty crazy, right? And also a young Loki. He's sort of been de-aged, but he's still just as devious and got all the magic tricks, the usual. It's a very interesting comic run. In fact, it's in this comic run that Loki and America inform Wiccan that in the future he will grow to become the entity known as the Demiurge. When he's acting as this being, he will change the laws of magic in all universes, realities, and all timelines, past, present, and future. That is some serious packing power. In fact, the Demiurge is so powerful, it is said to have created Gaia, Thor's mother, who also is a pretty powerful magic user. In the comics, Wiccan does tap into this power once. He uses it to destroy a reality parasite known as the Mother. After he does this, he concludes that the power is too much for him at this time, and he releases it. For now, anyway. I mean, I like Wiccan as he is, but it would be pretty cool to see him as this Demiurge-like being, see what he changes the laws of magic to be. The 7th point is about Billy's powers themselves. Now, as Scarlet Witch originally in the comics was thought to be a mutant, many thought that Billy and Tommy were also mutants. However, that fact has since been retconned, as she is not, in fact, the daughter of Magneto. Rather, she gains her powers through her mystical abilities. That does not necessarily mean that her twin children are not mutant, however this has neither been confirmed nor denied. At this stage though, we do recognise that Billy has an incredible mystical ability. His magic grants him the power to bend reality to his will, much like his mother, the Scarlet Witch. The main difference is that he says spells. His spells are in fact more like a manifestation. He even said that he got this tip from a self-help book that he once read. Instead of using a magical language like for instance Doctor Strange, Billy just says what he wants to happen over and over again until his magical abilities bring it about. Pretty simple, right? There is a downside though. Billy has to be able to hear his own spell. So for instance, if he was gagged, he would not be able to utter the spell and therefore he could not bring it about. He cannot just say it in his head. However, Billy has demonstrated a series of powers that he apparently does not need to cast spells to use, such as force fields, lightning, flight, and energy projection. All of these can be linked though to his electric kinetic abilities, which was originally insinuated to be his mutant power. So this is not necessarily tied to his magic. Much like the character Magic from the X-Men, whose mutant ability is of course her teleportation and link to different dimensions, and then she also has her magical powers on top of that. The 8th must-know fact about Wiccan is his eligibility to be the Sorcerer Supreme. The Vision once described Billy as one of the most powerful mages on the planet, comparing him to the likes of the Scarlet Witch, Doctor Doom, and even Doctor Strange. It's a lot of doctors, really. In fact, when Doctor Strange is looking for a potential candidate to succeed him as the Sorcerer Supreme, Wiccan is one of the ones that he analyses. And in another comic where he goes to a dimension full of Sorcerer Supremes, Wiccan is there as one of the future Sorcerer Supremes. In the comics and in the Marvel Universe, we've seen Doctor Strange, the Ancient One, and even Brother Voodoo fulfill this role. So perhaps it would be interesting to see Billy Kaplan rise up to the challenge. Would you be interested in seeing him as the Sorcerer Supreme? Now, as of yet, it's not certain what Wandavision is going to do with Billy and Tommy. If in fact they are just going to be fragments from Mephisto's soul, if Agatha has actually eaten them, or whether or not they're going to stay as canon and be introduced as permanent characters to the Marvel Universe, which we hope and pray they are. Of course, with other characters from the Young Avengers being introduced to the Marvel Universe, such as Hawkeye, it seems a little bit more likely that they're going to stick around. If on the small chance that they don't, or even if they do, I fully recommend reading some of the amazing comics that Billy Kaplan has been a part of, including the Young Avengers series. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and I'm actually going to be doing more of these comic character spotlights, including Billy's twin brother Tommy Shepherd. So if you'd like to see some of those, then please subscribe so that you get alerted when they are uploaded. In the meantime, keep on geeking on.